This is a Morning Express, and it's time for The Way It Is. We do apologize for the slightly late start on The Way It Is this morning. There just seems to have been a bit of traffic and challenges for the guests getting here, but well, let's make use of the time that we have. And I'll go straight to introducing our guests. To my extreme left, we have Omar Hassan, who's the Senator for Mombasa County, also the Secretary General for Wiper Party. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And sure, there was a bit of traffic, eh?
Yeah, there was okay. Coming here, but in fact, I got lucky to get here almost on time.
Almost on time. All right, we also have Muriuki Njagagwa, who is the Member of Parliament from Bere. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
And karibu sana. All right, gentlemen, I hope you had yourselves a good weekend, but let's get straight into the nitty-gritties of The Way It Is. And of course, what has been in the headlines now for quite some time is the judiciary. And this is, of course, in regards to the allegations against Justice Tunoi. And on Friday, the special committee that had been put in place gave recommendations that the president can go ahead and appoint a tribunal. And this is mainly to continue with the probe, suggesting that there is reason or cause for that to continue. And I'll start with you, Senator. At this point in time, should Judge Tunoi maybe just hang his boots? After all, he's already 70, and you know the retirement age in the current constitution is 70, and he had an impeccable record so far.
I think he needs to consider his exit. What the committee of the commission is saying, there's a certain minimum threshold that can warrant the forming of a tribunal. And to a certain extent, I do have fair confidence in the institution of the GSC, and to me that will be quite a blow, not only to the person of Judge Tunoi, but also to the entirety of the judiciary.
What would be the blow for him to go ahead to the?
I think he does not want to drag the judiciary through that mud. If I were him, a similar situation, I would take time out. And say that maybe this is the point at which it is. Maybe he might want to contest his innocence. Maybe there is really no truth in it. But the GSC must have arrived to a certain threshold to warrant the recommendation to form a tribunal. But for me, the more critical question is when the president sets up the tribunal, what is the status of Governor Kidero? Because it takes two to tango. He's equally implicated in this corruption scandal. So it is, for me, I totally believe if Tunoi is going to step aside, because once the tribunal is set up, the Constitution demands that you step aside as a judge. You're suspended for that period until the tribunal finishes its work. If that happens to Judge Tunoi, it's only fair that also Governor Kidero steps aside to allow the formation, the full prosecution of that matter. So I think I would not want to cast aspersions yet on the credibility of the GSC. I think Judge Mutunga has done extraordinarily well to commission this investigation, to speak against his own brother in the bench, the highest bench in the country. And therefore, for those who are calling for the resignation of the Chief Justice, out of their minds, because the Chief Justice, had it been any other Chief Justice, probably this matter will never have come to public domain. Neither it will have been prosecuted to its logical conclusion.
Of silence, which has still not been explained, where he received the affidavit and was quiet about it until now a certain media house broke the story.
He had presented it before the GSC. As far as we're concerned, he had presented it before the GSC. And even in that regard, the GSC itself, JC, has come out very strongly to ensure that even if it is a judge of the Supreme Court, they will prosecute the facts. So they took their time, they listened to all parties, and they were convinced that there was a threshold of evidence that warrants a recommendation to the president to form a tribunal. So if once the president forms the tribunal, Justice Tunoi stands suspended. If Justice Tunoi stands suspended, Kidero must step aside.
Okay.
It's only justiciable.
All right, I'll come to you, Muriuki Njagagwa, and we had asked the question earlier on, and I have a comment here of somebody who says that resignation of the judge may imply admission of guilt by Tunoi. Let him go all the way as he is clean. Do you think this would be a point in time where, with all due respect, he can resign and say, thank you very much, I've served my time, my record so far has been good, I'll clear myself, but this is time to quit?
My take on this is that the man is innocent until proven guilty. That is the position of our constitution. Now, the other issues is that we know that the current constitution says that judges must retire at 70. He has fought that clause. He's already in the court fighting not to go home at 70, but at 74. So he has nothing to lose in as much as he's now fighting to be in the judiciary. Now you're telling him to resign. My take would be this: let the judge face the tribunal. He has maintained all along that he is innocent. So if he steps aside, it means he's going to deny us the chance to know what really transpired, what really happened. And like my good senator says, if the judge goes, we'll never know whether Kidelo gave out the money or not. And if indeed he gave, which I'm not saying he gave, but going by the affidavit, it means it says that he gave out some money. If he gave out the money, it means that he'll have stayed in power for 5 years, having bought his position in power or into power. So let the judge face the tribunal. Let the judge be, the accuser be cross-examined on his affidavit, and then we'll know what really happened. Number two, that affidavit is very clear on some element that this man was not taken by one judge. So if Tunoi steps aside, it means we'll never know who are the other judges who might have taken that money. So we'll be left with, the judge has left the scene, but the others who took the money will be intact in office and continue to dispense, in quotes, justice. So let us go through the entire hog, then we'll know where the truth is. If the judge never took the money, if the money was never given to anybody, then the Supreme Court will say it will be clean. But this, I believe, is the time to cancel that Supreme Court.
Okay. No, but just to follow up on a point, my brother, Mheshimiwa, it is not that if you resign, it's an admission of guilt or you don't get to know what is going on. Sometimes the resignation helps to preserve the dignity of the office. Yeah, because you see, what you do is to put that dignity of that office at that period of time in severe scrutiny and disrepute. So sometimes resignation are not necessarily, in Kenya, it might be mistaken as an admission of guilt. Look at, I'm seeing here in the Standard, Waiguru cleared. ESSC says there is no evidence on corruption. If she had stepped aside honorably, and then this was the verdict that was returned, especially with an ESSC that has a full complement right now of all the 5 commissioners, then you will say, oh, there it is, she's innocent. So, but she allowed herself to be dragged through the mud. So that's what we are talking about. Sometimes it is important to pave way for certain processes to take place. It just retains the credibility and the honor of that office. So you don't want to subject the office of the Supreme Court. Or you look at what Duale, who is doing now in terms of attacking the credibility of the entirety of the judiciary, the whole complement. People are saying judiciary on trial. I saw one of the cartoons yesterday. Is it today? Or that worms are eating Kenya from all dimensions, corruption, judiciary. Right. You know, so we need to restore that dignity in some of the public institutions and the respect in some of the public institutions. So I think that sometimes resignation, today Waiguru will not have been in that kind of spotlight. If this had come out when Waiguru had stepped aside and had allowed an investigation at that point in time, probably will not even have gotten to that point where she is today not cabinet secretary. Right. Yes. Yeah,
Muriuki Njagago, don't you think that it's a time as Kenyans we got to a point where we are politically and in terms of position mature? Because some countries view it as immaturity when a leader who is questioned cannot step down or step aside. And you see, stepping aside does not necessarily mean, like Senator says, that you've admitted guilt. Secondly, it doesn't mean that you're guilty. All you're saying is, for my name to be cleared, let me step aside, let me allow for investigations to go through. When the time comes, like Waiguru, when the time comes, I will be cleared and I will be made, my name will be, put back where it should be.
Why I took that position is very clear. All along the judge has said he never met this gentleman, the accuser. He doesn't know him. But we are told that the investigative arms of government are saying that there was contact between the two of them. They corresponded on phone. So prima facie, and that's why I believe the select committee by the Judicial Service Commission said, let us form a tribunal. There was contact between the two gentlemen, the honorable judge and the accuser at some point. Now, when the judge says and maintains that I am clean, if he steps aside, doesn't mean that he's guilty. He's just saying, for the sake of our judiciary, for even his own personal sake, he has put in about 30 years in the judiciary or thereabout, let me go. But there's another element that we are forgetting. There's a serious allegation that money, huge amounts of money, changed hands for somebody to become the governor of Nairobi. So if the judge just walks out, it means that governor who is alleged gave out money will remain in office for 5 years, and if indeed money was given out, it means that is an illegality.
But
this will have been installed is into office.
Yes.
But, but the EACC is now coming in and doing their own investigations.
Of course.
And as a result, I imagine, should there be anything found, then that, I mean, the fact that he has stepped aside does not necessarily mean that the trial stops.
My position would be, let him face the tribunal. Let us also get to know who else was involved, because we are saying that here there was a magistrate, there was advocates, there were judges. Once he steps aside, it means that everybody, things will just be trashed under the carpet, and we'll move on like nothing happened.
Mheshimiwa, there's been constant denial of any meetings, of any money changing hands. It's not like now Justice Tunoi is going to be born again and come out and say, now really, I've decided to now finally speak out. The only thing that can establish the truth or otherwise of who's culpable is a thorough investigation, even to be able to even do an audit in terms of the money trail. If it was true this money was given, what demonstrably can be seen in terms of, you know, sometimes to hide a 200 million vote is not easy. It will manifest itself in something you did small, even if it's for your grandson. So that's what the kind of things that one needs to do in terms of a complete investigation. So I think for me, if he decides not to resign, which is what
he has said so far,
which he has said so far, and which the tribunal, the president doesn't have an option. He must set up the tribunal by virtue of the constitution. And once the tribunal is set up, the judge stands suspended.
Sure.
And in that regard, it will be a contradiction of law and fairness if Governor Kidero does not step aside. I can tell you for a fact.
But constitutionally, is there any provision for Governor Kidero?
Public decorum. In fact, we've been calling on all public officers as a matter of tradition and practice. Whenever we investigate Kazungu Kambi, I'll say Kazungu Kambi. I totally believe the guy was innocent. So when you're investigating Kazungu Kambi, you tell him to step aside, and if eventually you say, oh, he appointed some board member, you know, irregularly, so it's abuse of office and not the corruption issues that you're talking about. You cleared Chirchir, you cleared Waiguru, you cleared a couple of other people. We've created it as public practice, particularly for executive functionaries, where if there is, and this is not an allegation per se, this is an allegation that is already has a threshold, and a judge is getting suspended for it by virtue of the Constitution to allow an investigation of sort. So therefore, it is only fair that we use the same standards that we apply unto ourselves, to others that we apply to ourselves.
Okay, what is your...
My take is that Kendelo was, he says, went to the entire judicial system, petitions filed in the High Court. I think they went to the Court of Appeal, and then to the Supreme Court, and he won. So he can stand on the moral ground and say, no, I didn't buy my way into office. I've gone through the entire judicial system, and I was cleared. I won fair and square. So you would say, and justifiably, maybe you would say, I don't have to step aside. That is what I'm saying. Let the spotlight be on the judge. Let us go through the entire process. Better still, let the judge come out and say, if indeed was given money, then let him spill the beans. Then at that point in time, the lawyers for Waitito can go back to court, can go back to the Supreme Court to have that judgment reviewed of the Supreme Court that gave Kidero the victory.
No, but you see, Kidero's stood on moral high ground until that point. This guy came out. But of course, until that point, every judge also of the Supreme Court stood on a moral high ground. We believed in their decisions. We took their dictum very seriously. Until that point, where the accuser came in, everybody stood on a moral high ground. Everybody's moral high ground collapsed. At that point, not only when the accuser came out, but at that point where now a tribunal is set to